Hey everybody, it's Corey from Thought Soldiers. I'm out on my patio because got some new roommates and it's getting very cramped in there and it's hard to make videos out there. So different angle, different point of view, and that's kind of what's the theme of integrating this recent shift is new point of views, new perspectives. So definitely what's coming out is as we level up and open up this headroom to be able to access higher timelines and higher levels of existence, higher thought processes, so on and so forth. What's happening is we are, as we are expanding, we are starting to access higher levels or being able to access higher levels of the akasha, our akashic records, and our understandings of the way our universe works and the way that we perceive things. And as we start to access all these higher floors, we're increasing the infinite possibilities of timelines that we can vibrate into. So what's going on is, for me, there was a lot of blocks, like there was a lot of downloads that I've been getting for a while that I've been blocked from being able to access, and that's being able to understand my true power and true potential. So I'm now working on removing those blocks because a lot of the blocks that I was trying to remove for a very long time were love blocks, financial blocks, things like that. But the one thing I wasn't asking the universe was to remove the blocks to be able to access this higher wisdom and this higher knowledge to be able to implement and integrate into my world and my realm. So right now, as we are expanding, our empathy is growing and our level of intuition and really that bridging that gap from head knowledge into heart knowledge. So what's happening is with this level of empathy, we are now creating connections with individuals that we normally probably wouldn't connect with in our old reality, in our old way of living, in our old way of thinking. So with the recent like throat chakra activations, we're definitely communicating more. I'm definitely relying more on the written word and the verbal word to make connections with people. So it's like the hermit phase. We're now stepping out of the hermit phase to then implement this knowledge into our day-to-day existence and to have a greater level of compassion, a greater level of empathy with other people. And so the one thing I wanted to note on is that when we are using technology to create connections, because we have this infinite source in front of us. I have this in my hands right now where I can be able to create a connection amongst any individual on the face of this earth in a split second in time. We're really like utilizing the quantum realm and quantum physics as in the sense of, if I know you exist and you know I exist, we create that connection no matter where we're at in time and space. So as we're using technology, and I ask this as far as on the empathy side of things, and you are not communicating via voice, but you're communicating via what I would call technological language, such as text messages or reading, things like that. When you're communicating with people on this level now, and as we are ascending, ask which voice is telling this story to us in our mind. Because if we're trying to create empathy and create compassion and create connections with individuals, as we are reading these stories in front of us, and I say stories because with text messages and things like that, or connecting on Facebook via the written word, it's very hard to tie in the emotional intent behind that word that is arriving. And so the biggest thing is to ask yourself when you're reading this, if you are reading it and you are stepping into a feeling that it's of a lower vibration or of things that are of a negative intent, ask yourself which voice you are hearing this written word from. Because a lot of this is a reflection of negative thought process and negative mindset that we may still be attached to, as far as being able to create true connections and being able to hear the connection in that person's voice versus hearing it in our own voice. And I actually just popped into this today. I had a friend that I've been going into some like intellectual kind of like back and forth with. It's definitely been a day of there's been a lot of like trigger points as far as these blocks being removed, of being able to access higher knowledge and definitely akasha wise as far as the understanding of the universe and how everything unfolds and the way this game works and how we're putting the puzzle pieces together. I've been having these kind of intellectual discussions, and I realized that, and she said this, that I was reading things through, I was reading what she was saying through a negative self-talk voice and not her voice. And that's what helps to draw that empathy bridge between another individual, is whose voice and whose perspective are we hearing this from? Are we hearing it from a very low perspective, a third dimensional, fourth dimensional perspective? Or or are we really feeling and hearing the words from a higher knowledge set? So I ask that if you are trying to integrate with these higher knowledges, higher timelines, and higher energies, that you are also reading and connecting from a higher level and not letting that negative self-talk be a reflection of knocking down the way you interpret and understand the messages of other individuals, especially when we're stepping out of the hermit phase and really trying to find our soul tribe and really trying to create these connections with other individuals. So definitely a time of implementing these higher realizations into our existence to help others ascend. And so I take it at like the analogy of, we understood the ascension process, and we understood the way that it worked by like standing at the ground level of the Empire State Building and looking straight up in all of its glory and going, wow, like this is the Empire State Building. Look how big and magnificent it is. But we were only being able to access 3 floors because we didn't know that we had things blocking us from being able to get to the 4th floor, the 5th floor, all the way up. And what's happening is we remove these blocks and we're implementing these energies, and we're starting to navigate each floor. We go through the 4th floor, we get the knowledge and the understanding from the 4th floor, we thank it, we bow in gratitude to the 4th floor, and we move up to the 5th floor, and we navigate that 5th floor, we bow in gratitude for the teaching and learning lessons, and we move up. As we start to ascend into higher levels of the Empire State Building, as I like to say, you start to realize how massive it is and how limited your belief was standing at the bottom of that tower and seeing that there was a roof, when in fact you step inside the elevator and you realize there is no roof. It just keeps going. And that's what I mean by limiting beliefs, is that as we start to access higher timelines and higher dimensions of existence, higher planes, being able to access higher floors in the Akasha, we realize that when we double in infinite possibilities as far as timelines and understanding, it just continues to expand into this point where our minds can't even conceive it. We compartmentalize it into this very tiny box of perception and understanding. And if we think of infinite as a fixed state, just so our 3D mind can wrap our minds around it, as we start to level up, we are putting infinite options on infinity, and then infinite upon infinite options upon infinite, and it expands to the point where your brain just explodes, plain and simple. So now as we're expanding, we start to realize that our consciousness can obtain extremely high levels of awareness, and it's a matter of now activating those downloads. So like for me, I knew that I had a lot of like back knowledge, or like a very full file sitting in the back of my mind that needed to be accessed, and there was something blocking me from that. So I had a friend who was doing an energy healing on me, and I asked her to remove some financial blocks. And it came to me in the realization, because I know that her, it was her oversoul, her higher self, her connection to source that was working through her to be able to unlock these things. I realized that, wait a minute, I probably have a backlog of downloads that I need to access. And so I asked her to remove those blocks. I actually asked it and set the intention to her oversoul, and her oversoul ended up saying to her, hey, let's unpack his abilities. Let's remove the blocks so he can access those abilities. And what happened was there was this new sense of power that I've been stepping into recently with these energies. And the power is not egotistical or cocky. It's just standing firm and grounded in the belief that we are infinite beings and that we have infinite potential. And the thing is that these downloads, these things that we've been accessing for a long time, they're there. We may have just been blocked from being able to unpack them, and sometimes they need to be activated through other individuals. So as those blocks were removed, I'm now having trigger points on a day-to-day basis now that are accessing this stuff. And I sit there and I go, how do I know that? How do I say that? And that's what I mean, is this infinite potential and this infinite knowledge could be residing within us, and we're completely unaware of what we have. So these shifts that have been accessing us into higher timelines, we're now into a higher understanding. And so for me, the biggest thing about, like, I thought about this kind of idea as far as limited potential versus expanded infinite potential when it comes to integrating these energies. And I think of it, and I've used this this metaphor or whatever, this story twice today, and it really resonates with me. And I feel like we're at the final poker hand. And so if I'm at the final poker hand and it's me and my opponent, we both, and I'm using Texas Hold'em references here. as I look at my hand and he looks at his hand, I see that I have a 10 and 2, and he's got pocket aces. Okay. So by the odds, that was created by man to be able to understand universal laws, being able to understand, be able to put some sort of, when it comes to odds, a numerical value on a universal law. The odds are stacked against me because I have attended to, he has pocket aces. He has greater odds of being able to win. My hand that I've been playing, and with limited belief, I have the belief that that hand will not win. So what do? I step into the affirmation, I unravel my belief structure, and I start to step into the fact that I have infinite potential and infinite abilities. When I do that, what I do is I start to now access a higher timeline. So thus, now my 10 and 2, which by numerical odds, I'm going to lose against pocket aces, I decide to see this hand in, and I don't throw in the cards. So literally, I'm choosing to live and to experience this hand and to see what this hand will bring to me. On the flop comes down a 10, a king, and an ace. Okay, so the potential's still there. The potential's still unlocked that I could win with this hand, but his pocket aces, his now it's now a 3 of a kind. It's trip aces against a 10 and 2, but there's still a possibility that I could win this hand. So I choose to see it out, and I keep my belief expanded, and I keep my belief large, and I stay larger than life when it comes to the belief that I'm going to win this hand. Out comes the next card, and it's another 10. So here we got a 10, king, ace, and a 10. We've now evened up my odds have now gone up because of my beginning limiting belief that I wasn't going to win would have created an outcome where it was very limited and very predictable and very, I am not going to win. That is the 3D mindset. I'm now living with a 5D mindset that this hand that is perceived to be a loser is actually gold, and I'm unaware of it. And that's what happens as we start to unravel these beliefs and strip down our structure and come to the core and the gold of our being, is being able to realize that even though society has put the odds against us, we are going to win. So now I've got 3 10s and he's got 3 aces. Still, by odds, he is winning. But I'm going to see this hand out. And so comes the last card, and it's a 2. Very, very quickly, my losing hand against a very, very almost bound to win hand has now won with a full house. And that's what I mean by keeping expanded in our beliefs, is that what happens is, as we are going through this ascension process, there are things that are going to come in our way that are going to knock us down and put us down into size. And what will happen is when we hit these blocks, instead of letting that block be something that is unattainable and something that we cannot overcome, we choose to say, I'm going to remove this block and I'm going to see this hand out to the very end. And that's when you realize that the odds are ever in your favor. Hunger Games. And that's the whole thing too, is the realization that this is just one big game. It's one big puzzle that we're all just trying to put the pieces back together and figure out what's going on. And that's what makes this game fun. A lot of times I used to get very down and go, man, this is a game, this sucks. Like I thought it was, and my perception of what this was very down and drastic and sad. But as soon as I start to see the beauty of putting these pieces together and being able to really understand who I am, what I am in my being, and step into that power and being able to stay expanded and stay large, what happens is, I start to really realize the magic that this universe is and this reality is, and stepping into these higher planes of existence. And so I ask that you stay expanded. It was something that was told to me a while ago, was to keep myself very large, because what would happen, especially when empathy is increasing, I used to shrink down, because if you entered my auric field and I didn't like your energy, I would compress into this little ball, almost a fetal position, a very womb-like state, because that's where comfort would reside. And I ask that if you are hitting blocks and these energies are coming, you're trying to implement them, stay expanded and large, because that's when you keep the potential large and you keep the potential expanded. Now I'm getting very heady with my words. And I mean, and this is what I mean by being able to access higher timelines, is that when we remove these blocks, we get into a flow state where we can start to understand things at a very fast level. And that's what's been happening, is these blocks have been removed for be able to access this higher knowledge and this higher wisdom, and I'm now implementing and trying to create connections with people to share this knowledge, to be able to activate them to access higher timelines. So, I ask, if when your empathy is increasing and your sensitivity is increasing as you ascend, stay large and expanded, because what will happen is, if we shrink ourselves, we are staying limited and we're staying controlled. And even when we stand and look up at the Empire State Building and how large and how massive and expansive it is, when we step into that elevator and realize that there is no roof, that we just keep going and going and going, and we keep rising, that expanded belief. We realize that when we are looking at this limited belief, or this very large belief in front of us, it's still very limited. And the expansiveness of this universe is beautiful, and the expansiveness of our potential as we start to access these higher timelines. So anyways, I just wanted to do a little bit of a kind of like a heady video to see if anyone resonated with it. It's definitely now a time to a very rapid manifestation, so be aware of your thoughts. Be aware of your triggers, and the awareness of that trigger is key towards being able to keep a neutral balance along this ascension journey, is that we no longer have to react to those triggers, and sometimes those triggers will happen so we can release whatever is coming to the surface. So I am noticing, I have a friend that I work with ascension coaching, and I give him Reiki as well, and he's been popping into some anger lately, because he's been asking for healing and clearing as far as implementing these new energies. And it's something I've been popping into, is facing anger and having to realize that this stuff is coming to the surface because it needs to be released. It's not coming to the surface so we can bypass and then shut it down and keep it in us. We have to release it, because we have to create room for more light to enter, and for us to stay expansive and to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow, and really step into our true potential and our true power. So it definitely also feels like a very much an empowerment period. I'm definitely a lot more motivational when I'm talking to friends. I'm definitely stepping into that destined purpose, stepping into that destined purpose to help others expand and to find that level of awareness. So you may be called into stepping into your destiny now, and it's very beautiful. Make sure you remove those blocks to stay in that flow state, because it starts to come with ease, and it comes naturally, and it's very fluid when we let source work, through us, and let that energy work through us. So keep removing those blocks, keep integrating. I haven't been doing so much meditating on like recent energies or like what is to come. I'm very much so in the now and in the present moment, and the realization that now only exists now, and there are infinite nows that are going to exist across this timeline, and there is no yesterday and there is no tomorrow, there is no 10 seconds from now. It's just energy right now, and that's really a gift, is the present. So big thing is being able to not distract as well, and being able to just enjoy the moment and enjoy the connections we create. I feel like, if you have to hermiting is okay. It's something I still do, but try to reach out and draw connections. And if there's no one in your immediate area that you connect to, try connecting out through whatever platform you need to. I'm definitely creating friends all over the United States right now that I'm in constant connection with. And as far as quantum level science and being able to give and share energy, once I know you exist and you know I exist, then we can send that energy to one another, and it doesn't have to necessarily be right here in the present where you are standing in front of me. And that's the realization, is this kind of implementation of science and spirituality, and kind of forming them into this single point of reference. And it's very balanced feeling too. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is, and this is something I discussed with Amber White of the Ascension Journals, and she put it on her live feed just now, is the importance of the roles of the characters in our lives and what they play. And definitely, so like for me, the people that have helped me the most on this ascension journey have been the women. I'm a very compassionate, more of a feminine style man, and so they've brought a level of healing and compassion to me that's helped to kind of balance the feminine and the masculine. But it's the realization that if you are a strong woman can only teach a woman how to be a strong woman, and a strong man can only teach a man how to be a strong man. So even though everyone's role plays a very important factor in this journey, key in to finding those people, because we no longer have to rely on those relationships to create us, such as sexual desire, and a woman, or a man is what makes an empowered woman, or an empowered woman is what makes a man. No, we are whole in our being, and we balance out within ourselves through this ascension, and we walk alongside each other in the journey. So the codependent nature is now being thrown out the window. We no longer have to rely on another individual to stay strong. We are strong in our own power, and we're stepping into that power. So then we can now walk alongside one another in the journey. And that's a beautiful part of this process, is creating relationships. It's a ship of relation, and our ships can sail alongside one another versus having to depend upon one another. It's not wrong to depend on someone if you need like healing or advice or things like that, but it's really about stepping into our power and becoming whole and being able to walk alongside another in their journey. And that's the peer-to-peer connection. It's a peer-to-peer. The peer doesn't make the other peer. We are whole in our being, and we share that with another and walk alongside them. And that's what holding space is about, for another individual to grow and expand. So I ask that if you are growing and expanding, to stay expanded, to stay growing, and to help others on the journey, and to walk alongside them, to walk with them, not walk for them, because that's the key thing, is how do we learn if we walk for another individual? I only learned through people guiding me and showing the way. And so if you're a way shower and you are blazing this trail for other individuals, keep your walk, upright, strong, and steady forward, because the other individuals, you're blazing the path for them to be able to walk the same trail, and to align with their destiny. Also be careful with what you're taking in knowledge-wise, because as you are accessing this knowledge, whether it be through YouTube, people like me, and through things like news and media, stuff like that, you start to vibrate with their vibration, and you start to access their timelines, and that can really knock down your true potential. So definitely a time of learning and integration through accessing our own knowledge and accessing our own timelines, and being weary of what we put power into when it comes to seeking out a guru or some enlightened being on YouTube, which we're all just continually learning. So asking that if you are watching videos and you are resonating with certain aspects of that video, maybe there's only a 4 or 5 second clip of that video that was meant for you, and the rest wasn't meant for you. And my buddy Richie from Soul Tribe is the one who mentioned this, so this isn't a realization or something that I'm saying myself. I'm that was a huge realization, is as we are accessing these higher timelines, and we are finding people that we resonate with, be careful, because you may start to resonate with their timeline, and thus you are then you're lining up with their reality, which could be a good thing. It could be destiny, but it could also take away the power that you have within yourself. So definitely a time of connection, creation, joy, and being able to step into our power and really realize what we are, and that we are infinite beings, and we have infinite potential, and we can stay expanded, and we can feel the energies, and we can be empathetic and compassionate, and it doesn't have to knock us down, because we're strong, and we are grounded. And that's been another thing too, is as these energies are rising, I will project out a body, and I very quickly realize when I'm living out a body, and it's time to bring that back in, to stay grounded, to get into Gaia, and to really know where we're at, and to integrate this knowledge amongst the humans, and not just live in the clouds. So anyways, that's all I got, guys. Much love and respect sent to everyone out there in the webiverse out there. If you want, click subscribe. Definitely could use all the love and support. And if you want to reach out, you can. Corey MacLite, LITE 33 @gmail.com. I apologize if this video cut off, because I went over 22 minutes. So this video, I'll have to piece it together. There may be some little gaps. I'm just going to flow with it, put it together, and put it up. And yeah, if anyone wants Reiki, I'm now offering Reiki. I'm a Usui Reiki master. So give me a call, and we'll work out rates as far as being able to get you some energy healing. And if you want ascension coaching, I am taking peers right now to help on their ascension process. So you can shoot me an email. I'll put I'll put my email in the description box, and you guys can shoot me an email if you want help with ascension coaching, or you want help with some Reiki healing. Anyways, much love and respect sent to everybody out there, and I will see you guys on the other side. Namaste.